the island of Eden, awakening the mind. Welcome to this short story from Difference Makers.
The arrival. I'd always known that life had a twisted sense of humour, but I wasn't expecting my latest punchline to arrive in the form of a fluttering parchment letter, as if delivered straight from some medieval courier. I mean, who still writes letters, for Pete's sake? The inked scrawl promised answers to the swirling mess of thoughts that had cluttered my head for as long as I could remember, thoughts I'd long since given up on organising. Subconscious struggles, the letter said, almost sounded clinical. But I wasn't one to turn down a good mystery, even if it meant getting on a rusty boat and setting sail for an island with the subtly ominous name of Eden. Eden. The name alone dripped with irony. I stepped off the boat, the sand warm beneath my boots, and took in the sight of the island, a lush tropical paradise that seemed to pulse with life. It was beautiful, sure, but there was something off. It was serene in that way a calm ocean looks before swallowing a ship, looming in the distance like a disapproving parent in silent judgment of my every step, a tower so tall it scraped the sky. My eyes traced its jagged silhouette, and I felt a flutter of something between excitement and dread. The letter had mentioned something about a triangle of influence at the top of that tower. Influence over minds, over emotions, control. I snorted. Control! Ah! As if anyone had real control over anything. But I was here, wasn't I? Curiosity, as they say, killed the cat. Or at least lured it into a very questionable situation. And so I took my first steps toward the tower, heart thudding in sync with a Bible verse that floated into my mind, something my old mentor used to say whenever I got too deep in my own head. What you think shapes who you are. Proverbs, I think. Or maybe just his own brand of wisdom. Either way, the message was clear. I needed to get my thoughts in order if I had any hope of making it to the top. The whisper. The path to the tower was unnervingly quiet, save for the occasional rustle of the wind in the trees. I found myself jumping at every shadow, expecting some monstrous beast to leap out and drag me into the underbrush. But no, something far more unsettling awaited me. A figure stepped out from behind a tree, cloaked in shadows and wearing an expression that hinted they knew far more than they were letting on.
"You seek the triangle of influence?"
they said, their voice a low whisper that seemed to curl around my brain like smoke. I nodded, feeling a prickle of unease. Yeah, that's the plan. The figure tilted their head, eyes gleaming.
"Power over minds, emotions, yourself, but it will cost you."
There it was, the catch. There's always a catch. "And what's the price?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant, though my heart was doing its best impression of a drum solo.
"You must climb the tower and face 3 trials: goal, cost, personal benefit."
The figure's voice was laced with something that felt both like a warning and a challenge.
"Only when you confront the truth of these will you unlock the power you seek."
Ah, so it was one of those journeys, the kind that required self-reflection and emotional vulnerability. Great! I was just here for this shiny artifact, but apparently I'd signed up for a full-on therapy session. Still, my curiosity, it had a way of leading me into the weirdest situations, and this was no exception. As I turned toward the tower, I could almost hear that old mentor of mine again. Don't get stuck in the ways of the world. Let your mind change, and you'll be transformed. He'd always been annoyingly cryptic. Romans, maybe. I couldn't be sure. But the words gave me a strange sense of determination. This was the kind of thing I couldn't just back out of. The first trial. The cost. The inside of the tower was a nightmare. Or maybe it was the inside of my brain. Hard to tell the difference. The walls were lined with mirrors that didn't just reflect my image. They reflected every insecurity I'd ever had. And then, as if that wasn't enough, those insecurities started to move. My reflection grinned at me, but it wasn't friendly. It was the grin of someone who knew exactly how to tear me down.
"You're not ready for this
it said, voice dripping with disdain.
You think you can just waltz in here and grow? Change? Master your emotions? Oh, please. You're terrified of change.
My heart raced, and I felt the familiar grip of panic threatening to tighten around my chest. The amygdala, right, that part of the brain that hijacks your rational thoughts and sends you spiralling into freeze, fight, or flight mode. Well, I was frozen neck deep. The only thing keeping me from bolting instead was sheer stubbornness. I clenched my fists, remembering another bit of wisdom, something my mentor had once told me when I was overwhelmed. Don't be afraid. You're not alone in this, Isaiah, maybe. The words calmed the storm inside me just enough for me to push back against my reflection. Yeah, it's scary, I said, my voice shaking but firm. But I can handle it. Vulnerability, change, whatever, bring it on. The reflection sneered and faded, leaving me alone in the mirrored room. The first trial was over, but I had a feeling the hardest part was yet to come. The eye of the storm. After that unsettling confrontation, I was expecting more chaos, but instead I found peace. Halfway up the tower, I stepped into a garden. A garden, of all things. The air was still, the flowers blooming wildly in a kaleidoscope of colour, their sweet scent washing over me like a balm. For the first time since stepping off the boat, I felt a sense of ease, of clarity. I sat on a stone bench, letting the quiet seep into my bones, and reflected on what I'd learned so far. Influence wasn't about controlling others. It was about aligning my goals, my willingness to pay the cost, and the benefits I sought. It was about knowing exactly what I wanted and understanding the price I was willing to pay to get it. The guide appeared again, though this time they didn't speak. Their presence was enough to remind me that I wasn't done yet, but for now I could enjoy this moment of calm. I thought of another verse, something about peace that transcends understanding. Philippians, maybe. It was a nice thought. The second trial, the goal. The garden didn't last long. The next challenge was a maze, mocking me with maddening misdirections, each turn twisting tighter. The walls shifted, the ground tilted, and every path seemed designed to take me further from my objective. And then there were the distractions, illusions of shortcuts that promised quick rewards. The walls shifted like liquid glass, flickering between reality and dreams, each path more impossible than the last. I almost took one of them, tempted by the allure of an easy way out, but something in the back of my mind stopped me. Focus on what really matters. That was the advice I needed. I remembered something my mentor had said once about keeping your eyes on the bigger picture. Don't get distracted by the next shiny object. Set your mind on higher things. Colossians, I think. With that thought in mind, I pushed forward, ignoring the temptations and trusting my instincts. Eventually, I found the central chamber and felt a wave of satisfaction wash over me. One step closer. The third trial, the personal benefit. The final trial was the hardest. It wasn't a mirrored room or a maze, but a void, a blank space where I was alone with my thoughts. And my thoughts were brutal. They showed me two futures. One where I stayed exactly the same, and one where I stayed exactly the same, and one where I embraced change, growth, and influence. The problem was, the future where I stayed the same felt safe, comfortable. The other future, it was full of uncertainty, risks, potential failure. I doubted myself. Could I really handle this? Was I even worthy of the benefits that came with mastering influence and emotion? The weight of my past failures crushed me, and for a moment I wanted to give up. But then a quiet voice inside reminded me of something I'd once heard. I can do anything through him. Philippians. Right? I wasn't sure, but the message was clear. I had to believe. With newfound resolve, I chose the path of growth even though it scared me. And just like that, the trial was over. The triangle of influence. At the top of the tower, I stood before the triangle of influence. It wasn't what I expected, not some magical artifact glowing with power, but a simple crystalline structure. Yet as I touched it, I felt something shift inside me. Clarity, control. Not over others, but over myself. Synapses in my brain fired, strengthening connections, pruning the ones I didn't need. I felt powerful, but not in the way I'd anticipated. It was quieter, more internal, a sense of alignment, a sense of purpose. As the triangle began to glow, I felt a pull, a shift in reality. Before I knew it, I was being transported somewhere new, somewhere unknown, but this time I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready, or at least so I thought.
Thank you for joining us here today. It's been our joy to be with you. We hope that you have enjoyed this short story from Difference Makers. Difference Makers is a special place where we weave together stories and guides to help you become a better, more self-assured leader with the help of neuroscience and the Lord Jesus Christ. This story was written by John Michael and narrated by me, Logan, a little, anyway.
But mostly by me, Lottie, and do remember to like or comment. We love to hear from you, and it helps us all keep on keeping on.
If you aren't yet a subscriber, we suggest that you sign up right now. You can sign up at Difference Makers, Substack, come.
And remember to share this story with someone you know would benefit. And lastly, do follow the link on the Substack post to read the transcript of the interview with the author, John Michael. We hope it will open your eyes to the depths and layers of the story and how to apply the neuroscience and biblical principles in your own life. Be greatly blessed.